So I think we will do a series. We're going to be talking about the power of
Saying no.
yes.
No.
Nope. Nope.
It's a full sentence.
The word no is a full sentence. That is correct. And in it, there's so many different things that I just have rolling around in my head that I want to talk about. But tonight specifically, I want to talk about the lies we tell ourselves about no. So we're gonna get into that. We're gonna chit chat just for a little bit because we love to chit chat for just a moment. And before I get too much into that, we started not talking about the announcements. We put the announcements in later. Did we get the announcements to 2?
Yes, she has them. And
Okay,
she'll be
she
posting
will
them.
post them.
And then I don't know if you want to talk about the healing meeting now or later.
Yes,
But
we will.
sorry, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it now or later.
We will immediately following this. We will have a healing meeting, and so just kind of log on right after. 2 will drop the address, the web link to get into that. So, but it's fun. We're going to be continuing the conversation every fourth. Actually not fourth, every last Wednesday of the month, we end up having a healing meeting. And a lot of times what we do is we continue the conversation about what we're talking about. And now we're talking about the power of no. So we will continue talking about that. And it's neat to have that conversation and really add to it.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's a really fun time.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and yeah, she'll drop the Zoom link and all the information on there. And anything you need to know will be, and if you have any questions, you can ask her in the comments as well.
Any events we have coming up, she will put it in that. That way we can have more time to talk about the power of no.
That's right.
And a little time to chit chat.
Chit-chat. What have you been up to?
Okay, go ahead. You can go first. I know
I'm
Christina
very
has
excited.
been pumped about the Olympics.
Yes, I'm super into the Olympics this year.
So tell me about.
I'm probably not like as deep into it as I think that I am. Like there's a lot I haven't seen. But this year I was just, for some reason, I was so excited about it this year. I talked to a few other people and they were like, yeah, me too. I always watched it when I was a kid growing up, and it was just a lot of fun. And the main thing we would watch would be the gymnastics. But I've watched it over the years and just different events and stuff I've liked. But what's so neat now is before you could only watch, whatever coverage they would, whatever was on that one channel.
Yeah.
And now I'm watching it on an app, and I can watch all these events that I didn't even know anything about. Like
Wow.
canoeing is an event. Skateboarding is an event.
Skateboarding,
biking, yeah.
Wow.
Like there's so many. I even watched badminton, and I was like, "This is so cool." Like,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, of course, they're super serious about it, and they get really into it. But you just don't think of certain events that way.
Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun and of course, I watched the gymnastics and the swimming, and
Yes.
I like when I go home at night because you can replay all the stuff. So I go home and I'm
That's
like,
pretty cool.
what's going on?
Technology.
Yeah. And I just think about the mental state it takes to be that type of athlete, to do that type of job. A lot of them have semifinals and finals, and so it dwindles down. Most events have that.
We actually talk a lot about Olympic athletes here in the way that, a lot of what we do is because if you think of Olympic athletes, they put so much time and so much effort into it for one event.
Yeah.
4 years, and I say 4 years, that's just 4 years in between Olympics. But it's crazy the mental fortitude that they have to be able to do that. And a lot of times here, additionally, we always talk about Olympic athletes in the way that people will be like, oh, I don't need counseling. I don't need help. I don't need this. But we always use the example of Olympic athletes. Olympic athletes, they have all the drive. They have all the ambition. They have all the gifts, all the talents, they have everything, yet they still need a coach.
That's right.
Because nobody can push you like a coach can. Nobody can step back and see what's going on. You'd never see an Olympic athlete say, I don't need a coach. And a lot of times we need life coaches. We need spiritual coaches. We need to be coached to push ourselves sometimes to the next level. So just to tie that in with the Olympics.
Yeah, no, it's great. And even that I saw, I was watching some gymnastics last night, and one of the girls very, very talented.
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember which one. She fell off her first thing she did, her first skill to get on the beam. She like flipped up. She bounced and flipped up on the beam. I can't even imagine doing that like in any capacity.
I know.
But she fell off. And she, of course, got back on. It's penalty, but you keep going. And she did her whole routine. And the rest of her routine was, like, amazing.
Yeah.
You know? But to be able to come back and not let that throw you off and just ruin the rest of the routine.
Yep.
And, you know, USA ended up winning because they're just incredible. But they fall. They make mistakes. They mess up on the most important
And they
day.
have to go on.
They have to get up and keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you can't just stop in the middle of it.
No.
If you do, like, that's tragic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you just have to, you know, take the hit and keep going.
That's right.
Yeah.
So it's been a lot of fun watching them.
Yeah.
And then I do think about, I was watching some swimming earlier and I was like, you know, they focus on the top 3 people mostly and they talk about them. But then I'm looking at the people who are like way far behind and they're not even going to make it to the next round. And I'm like, my gosh, like they worked just as hard as the person who's in first place to get where they are. And what a bummer. But I bet a lot of them are also like, I made it to the Olympics, you know?
Yeah.
So.
You have to have the mindset of a Olympic athlete or any type of high functioning, you know, athlete. And it just takes a lot. And the same thing, you know, like I said, translating it again into your spiritual race. Like it takes that endurance, that perseverance, that athlete mindset to be able to do that.
And to not compare and, you know, things like that.
It's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough because you're not going to have your peak performance every single day.
Right.
Yes. And just as I'm thinking about it, we played a little bit with the sound. We kept hearing a buzz noise. And so let us know in the comments, please, if our sound sounds better today or it sounds louder. And we also noticed that the sound was like it was low. Yeah. And so we tried to make some adjustments.
Yeah, my report says the sound is great so far. So I have my little
woohoo
reporter.
Let's try.
Hopefully it sounds better for you guys this week.
Yes. So, okay, for my chit chat, I want to talk about, we had, Christina and I, we don't often, like a lot of times we have to work on the week. We don't have to, we get to work on the weekends, but we just have had so many things. We were like, we need a fun day.
Yeah.
So we had a fun day.
We did.
We did all the things in one day.
As we do.
I know, we're like, well.
Once you get going, you're like,
let's do this, and let's do this, and let's do this.
Where do you want to go now?
But we went to, you'd found a thing about the silent book club, and we had a lot of fun doing that.
It's like an introvert's paradise.
It was so very funny when she told me about it at first. I'm like, we're going to go there. We're not going to talk to anybody. We're just going to be quiet and
read in a group of people we don't know.
Because Christina is single.
Yeah.
So I'm always trying to be her wing woman, you know.
Appreciate that.
To be like, we got to go.
Get out there.
And you got to meet some men.
That's right.
And
I should probably just go to Home Depot. Not gonna. I saw a video the other day that was like, times to go to Home Depot around the kind of man you want to meet. I was like, that's not untrue.
Yes.
Anyway, but yes.
So it was fun. We went and we did the silent book club. It was so funny because I think there was confusion about the time we were supposed to silently start it. So I kept teasing her. I'm like, I can get up and make the announcement.
I was like,
she's like, don't you dare. I'm like, because it didn't look like there was a leader around.
Well, the first time you said it, I was like, I know, haha. The second time you said it, I was like, I know, you could, I know. And then the third time, I was like, please don't.
Because we sat there. We thought it was going to start at,
I think,
what time?
12 o'clock.
No, before. I don't think we started.
I think 11:30.
11:30.
Yeah.
So we just sat there, and it looked like nobody was in charge. I told her, I said, if nobody's here in charge, then nobody will know if I just stand up and start being like, okay, now we are going to start our silent reading. If everybody will put their phones on silent. And she didn't think it was so funny. But there was eventually, the leader showed up.
Yeah,
and announced.
She said she usually has like a co-host, and she's usually more talkative.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was fun.
It was fun. We had a lot of time, but I would like to read for 2 hours versus 1 hour.
I feel like you're just getting into it.
Yeah.
After an hour.
And I will have to say that I don't think everybody's definition of silent reading time is the same.
Yeah, I'm interested to see it because they do it at a different.
They do it different locations.
And this place was loud.
Well, the people were loud too.
That's true.
Like.
It was real echoey.
Hear me. We had a great time.
Oh yeah, we had a fantastic time.
But it was interesting to me, like when the image that I got in my head of what a silent reading time is we're gonna be quiet.
That's right.
But they had music going and people were talking.
Yeah.
And so I ended up putting my earbuds on. You put your earbuds on, and I had to play something. So I ended up downloading the book. So I was reading the book and having the book read to me to mask.
Yeah, I was listening to instrumental music. I can do that and read as long as there's no words or it's not a song I know.
If I play a song, I'll start dancing. I'll start singing.
If it's like a tune that I know, I'm like, oh, change it.
I'll be just so distracted.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we had a lot of fun doing it. Now that we know how it's going to unfold, they may be a little bit late starting.
Yeah.
That it's not going to be silent.
Right.
Totally.
Right.
But now we're
ready.
We're ready now.
Prepared.
We got it down now.
That's right.
And they have it, like I said, at different places. So that'll be neat. We get to go to different places.
Yeah, and
to do it.
Sometimes they have larger groups, smaller groups. Just depends. Yeah, and then you can check out different, there's different, around Houston, there's like 2 or 3 different ones. So you can pick like your neighborhood and then you can check out different places in your hood.
I would say 8 out of 10 recommend.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yes.
Definitely. Can't wait to go back. We did meet some people too.
Yes,
so
we
nice.
did. And so that's fun.
Yeah.
And we got to get our nails done.
Yeah.
We got to go.
The doggy store.
We got to go to, I don't remember what the name of it.
3 Dogs Bakery.
3 Dogs Bakery. But it was so funny because I bought no bakery items. But the
cutest
toys for the pups. So
and
I
they had
enjoyed
really
that.
Cute bakery items for the dogs.
They did. And we went nice lunch. And then what else did we do? Nails.
Got our nails done.
It just seemed like we went several different places.
We did because we did breakfast too. So
that's true. We went to a breakfast place. Well, we
Probably
should.
Sorry,
I shouldn't say where exactly we go.
Yeah, that's true.
But it was an excellent breakfast place. A breakfast place that she loves.
Yeah.
And so I had never been, and so you were able to show me.
Yeah, it was fun.
Your place. And everywhere we went, we got a primo parking space.
We did. That's true.
It's so funny. I always pray for parking lot anointing.
Right.
Because, especially at the place we went for breakfast.
Oh, yeah. That was crazy.
We were going to have to hoof it for quite a bit. And the crazy part is it was pouring down, torrential rain pour.
All day.
Yeah. But we stayed pretty dry. We moved fast. Yeah. So the rain did not steal from our joy.
Nope. It was a fun day.
It's fun. And that's what I would say, to tie it into what we're talking about. We had a lot of things we needed to catch up on and a lot of things that we needed to do, but we said no to those things. And we said yes we needed a day of fun.
We did. I felt recharged.
I did too. Yes.
Yeah.
Because we needed fun because we'd just been, several new projects in the works and just putting our nose to the grind. And it's like, okay, we need a fun day.
Yeah.
And it was fun.
Yeah. Great time.
And there's so many things here, I'll say, to do in the Houston area. And you and I both follow several pages or several people on Instagram that have, fun things to do in Houston and stuff like that. So I have some more ideas for us to do.
Me too.
Some fun stuff.
Yay.
We'll have to do some of the fun things.
We'll have another fun day.
I know. So I'm going to cough here a little bit. And the allergies, the allergens. I don't know if everybody else is experiencing that, but the heat. The heat will zap your energy. It is.
Cranking up even more.
And it's not so bad, the heat, as I think the humidity and heat paired. It's like, oh.
Yeah, everybody's wanting to escape.
But we'll do that. So back to the power of no. I really, I was really praying and thinking about, okay, what do we want to start talking about in a series? And like I said, I just started thinking about no, and I thought, oh my gosh, we need to do a series on the power of no. Because one of the things here at the ministry, I'd say one of the biggest problems is people, and I don't care what personality type you are, how bold, how timid, everybody has a hard time saying no in one way or another. And, a little bit what we're going to talk about is the lies we tell ourselves about no. But before we even get into that, I really want to talk about why is it so hard for people to say no? It's consistently, excuse me, when people come in, they're like, it's almost like no's not an option.
Right.
Like I have to find a path to yes. And so when you suggest to somebody, how about you just say no? They just look at you like you have three eyes. And we want, and I don't suggest to say no just to say no, right? But there's a lot of things that go into it. If I can't, we talk a lot about responsibility, personal responsibility, personal accountability. But if I want to say no and I say yes, and I can't say yes, I can't say that without getting resentful, there's a problem with that, right?
Yes.
Like, own saying no. But what are we afraid of? We're afraid we're going to lose people's affection. We're afraid people are going to be upset with us. We're afraid we're going to offend people. And I always tell people, like, if you've got to be that careful and walk on eggshells that much, maybe you don't need to be in a relationship with those people. But additionally, what I would say is that a lot of times the story that we build up in our head, like we really are, this is one of my points, like we lie to ourselves the most about no. And we give ourselves a million reasons why we can't say no. That is just simply not true. And the number one thing I think we talk about around here when people have a hard time saying no is they make it about the other person, but it's really about you. If you can't say no, you need to come to the understanding that you are conflict avoidant. And, for whatever reason that you tell yourself, and think about what story do I tell myself when I have to say no to somebody? We're going to go through a few of them. I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings. We're going to talk about that in a minute. I don't want to hurt their feelings. No, that's a lie. It's a lie. When you can't say no, you're people pleasing and you're conflict avoidant, and it causes problems in all areas of your life. How many people do we have come in and it's so cute? They're like, okay, I want to do this different. I want to interrupt this pattern. I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And they come in deflated and they're like, no, I did the exact opposite thing I said I was going to do.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Because when we think about it, and that's one of the reasons why I want to call it the power of no, because if you can't say no, you are giving your power away. You're giving over control of your life to somebody else. Because remember, when we're talking about saying no, in a large degree, we're talking about boundaries, right? And boundaries are for you. And boundaries aren't to control the other person's behavior. Boundaries are for you, and you have to begin to ask yourself, what do I want? And most people don't know what they want. They've spent so much time trying to survive life. They spent so much time trying to figure out, okay, how can I not upset this person? How can I not get them mad at me? And it's a game of manipulation that boundaries become, because boundaries are just about you. Angie, what are your boundaries? What are okay and not okay? And I almost hate to use the word boundaries because everybody is like, Boundaries. Like, it's like codependency. I hate those words. I hate codependency and I hate the word boundaries because people have such a wrong idea of it. If you look scripturally in the Bible, Jesus had boundaries. He didn't try to change other people. He let people know what he was doing and what he wasn't doing. And even in the people that were with him, he had boundaries around the groups of people that he had. He had an inner circle, he had a circle, and he had the masses. And you have to know what's okay and not okay with you, for you. Because if you don't know that, everybody else will tell you. We talk about it here all the time. If you go to buy a car and you don't know what you want, what are you leaving with?
Whatever they want you to have.
That's exactly right. And it's no different emotionally. And it's easier. We don't like to think about ourselves. No. Like, it's so funny because we live in a time period when narcissism is running rampant. And hear me, like, I'm not talking about clinical narcissism, just, pop psychology narcissism. But we have this continuum and we're on it somewhere. You're selfish in some areas and unselfish in other areas. But in it, so we think you think about yourself in a survival mindset. Survival. That's how you think about yourself. But you're thinking about other people in context of your survival mindset. So you are thinking about other people. You're not thinking about what you want, but you're thinking, like, if I'm thinking, okay, what can I talk about you with? What can I talk to you about with? How can I stay safe? How can I not get you mad at me? How can I do blah, 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 blah. And it really becomes all about control and manipulation out of my fear and anxiety that I'm going to get hurt, that I'm going to get abandoned, that I'm going to get rejected. And we manage those situations by trying to control the other person's behavior. I can't even tell you how many times we've had people withhold information from people.
Oh, yeah.
Like, say with spouses, with friends, I didn't tell them about this party because I didn't think it was a good idea for them to go. Like, if you think about it, if you were managing somebody else's information, the flow of information, that is so controlling, right? Yep. I'm not going to tell them about this because I'm afraid of they're going to want to go and I don't want to go, or they don't need to know. But also we lie to ourselves. We say, oh, I don't want to overwhelm them. Oh, I don't want to upset them. And we tell ourselves all these lies, but we control information. And that definitely is a way that we try to keep ourselves safe. So when we get in this survival mode, I'm no longer thinking, the power is within, the kingdom of God is within, but people don't think about that. People are thinking externally. Yeah. How can I control you so that you make my life easier? Right. How can I control you so that you respond to me in a way that I feel safer and I don't have to do the work?
That's a lot of fun to be in a relationship like that.
I know. And then we're all in these toxic relationships to a large degree, and everybody's trying to control everybody. When what Jesus does is he brings freedom. He brings freedom of choice, freedom of action. Like, Jesus, you get to choose. But as people, when we excuse me, when we're not able to say no, if I can't say no to myself, if I can't say no to other people, we live in this world of survival where we have to just basically become cons to get everybody to do what we do, or trick ourselves into doing things. It's crazy.
It is. It'll run your life.
It will. And we've talked before about anxiety. How much anxiety does it produce for people when they can't say no?
Right. It's amazing how much it controls their life and it makes decisions for them that they feel like, I have to, I can't,
Yeah. Because you're literally giving your power over. And when I say power, it's like, here's your control panel. Here's your decision making abilities. If I abdicate that, then what? And by abdicate, I mean if I allow somebody else to choose for me, like we divorce ourselves from the responsibility, from our accountability. So that's where we get all these victim statements like, oh, I can't do that, or this person would never let me. I cannot tell you how many spouses, and if you're ever in counseling or in training or anything with us, and you try to become a victim, we will right out of the gate be like, that's a no-go. Because I'm responsible for my life. I'm responsible whether we confuse fault in there. And it's not about whether it's my fault. It's not about whether it's anybody else's fault. We just confuse it, and we have to get to the point to say, this is my life. And if things go down in my life on my watch, ultimately I'm responsible for it because this is my life. Yeah. And how many times do we have, and hear me, our clients are precious. And I love that we have so many growth-minded people. But I will say, when people start on the path, this is one of the biggest things that they have to learn. They have to learn that, in a way, like Pastor Earl would say, everybody has what they want. Yeah. Everybody has what they want. No, I don't want this. Yes, you do. You know how we know that? Because you're doing it. Because you're allowing it in your life. And I always give the example of, people say, well, no, I don't like that. Well, understand, we go off of our blueprints, and whatever, you have to update your blueprint to get anything different. If somebody put their hand here and we smashed it, we wouldn't do that. But if we smashed it with the hammer, and the next time they wouldn't put their hand up there. Why? Because they don't want that to happen. And we do the same things. We had, sometimes we have domestic violence cases here, right? And one of the first things we say is, you've got to get comfortable with the idea of calling the police. We try to interrupt the abusive cycle. If you're in fear for your life, I want you to call the police. What happens?
They don't call.
No.
I know, you told me I should have. I just didn't. I couldn't. They just,
And here, no judgment, because these people are in this cycle, but we have such a hard time being, just even to break free. You have to begin to interrupt these cycles, and to interrupt these cycles, it always includes saying the word no, I won't be treated like that. It's not about, no, you can't do this, you can't do that. No, it's no, I won't tolerate that in my life. No, that's not okay with me in my life. And one of the biggest ways to get to that is to be able to understand our identity and to value our identity. Because, sometimes we have to, kind of exchange things for us to get some clarity. If you're in a situation and you're wondering whether, is this okay? Is this not okay? Put somebody you value in there and say, would I want this for that person? And usually it's like, oh no, I would. There's a lot of clarity. And then you can begin to see, wow, I've devalued who I am. And like I said, it's not about saying no to the other person. It's about saying yes to you, really. We're kind of coming in backwards, saying the power of no. The power of saying no to other things is the power of saying yes to yourself. Just like this weekend, there were a lot of things we had to say no to. To say yes to us, which was very important, that we, like you said, that we restored and we had fun, and we just needed a weekend. But it's hard to say no sometimes, because we had,
a laundry list.
Of things that legit things that need to be done. But at the same time, you can't do everything. You can't have everything. You can't do everything. We talked about sharpening our focus last live, and you have to begin to start with no. Everything starts with no. Just, like people come in, and one of the things they're like, you have to say no to your schedule, because you've got to make time. Whether you're doing, we have online appointments. I say online appointments. We have phone appointments and Zoom appointments, and then some people come in. But you have to make time.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to, we have to specifically say to people, you have to treat your phone appointment or your Zoom appointment like you're coming in.
Yes.
When we do classes, hey, you have to treat this like you're going to university. Like you have to set aside this time. Because what are we teaching you to do? We're teaching you to say no.
Yeah.
So that you can say yes to yourself. Because so many people, if you can't say no to people, there's specific reasons why you can. And hopefully through this series of The Power of No, you're going to begin to see what kind of cycle you're caught up in. Right?
100%. Yep.
Yeah.
And I think, like, the more you practice, the less scary it becomes. Because that was one thing I was thinking about when you were talking is how terrifying that is when you first start to practice that.
I know.
Yeah.
You really think your life is going to fall apart.
Oh my
Everybody's
gosh.
going to leave you. Like there's this overwhelming apprehension that comes over people of what's going to happen when you say no. I remember, it's funny, sometimes I have this pet peeve about, like, if you go somewhere and you're in a drive-through and they tell you, like, literally, like, I don't mind saying no. Like, if they say, hey, would you mind to pull up? If I've had a big order, that's fine. If you just have a beverage and they ask you to pull up, no, I'm not.
Right.
And I remember we were in a car one time, and I said, no, thank you, I'll wait. And it stuns people.
Like, what? You can do that?
Yes, you can.
Turns out you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And hear me, I'm not trying to be a diva and be difficult, but if you literally are going to be like 30 seconds, because here's the thing about drive-thrus, and this is a little pet peeve of mine. They have, a lot of times they have timers on things, and they're trying to meet their metrics, but they're cheating the system.
Right.
They're having you pull up so that the thing isn't dinging that a car's been there too long.
It
and
looks like they're moving people faster.
yeah, I've literally have somebody say, can you back up and pull up again?
Because I've had them ask me since then. I learned. And I've had them ask me, and there's nobody behind me. And I was like, there's no one waiting. And so, yeah, I've had that same. And and it's so funny when you say, like, when you do it the first time, you're like, you say no, and then they go. I've heard them go,
they're like
she
that.
said no. She said no, she won't. They're like, what? It's very confusing to them.
And I mean, do it very politely.
Oh, yeah.
Like I said, and if
100%.
you have a large order and you know that, like, they're having to prep a lot, and like, no, pull up.
If I have time, I'll pull over.
But if you have, like I said, I can see them making my beverage and they want me to, no.
Right.
Like, no, thank you, I'll wait.
Right.
I don't mind to wait, thank you. Because they present it to you, like.
But I think it just shows, for me, when I kind of started to practice that, it showed me how often we think we can't say no in certain situations.
We just think it's not an option.
Yeah, we just assume that you have to.
Because they can come back and say to me, no,
we really need
you have to pull up or we will not give you your food. And then I get to
decide what
decide.
to do.
But emotionally, I bring that up because that's a physical, like, it's an obvious example of that. But we don't think we have the right to say no.
Right.
I remember when when boys were younger, it was very important to me. Even just like when you think about, this is going to be, I think, a very freedom, producing series for you, the power to say no. Because even like when my boys were smaller, you know how, like, when your relatives come up and hug you, they never had to hug anybody they didn't want to. And sometimes family members think that's very rude. I don't care. That's their bodies. And if they don't want to hug you, now they can't be rude to you. They can't, I always taught my boys to be very polite, make eye contact, yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, like, thank you, you're welcome. Like, be polite, have manners. We're from the South. You got to represent, right? But there's certain things that people don't have rights to.
Yeah.
You can say no, and you can say no without
Politely.
offering an explanation. That's another thing that we do. Like, if we muster up enough courage to say no, but then we have to give a litany of excuses, over explain. Because why? Because we feel insecure about our no.
No, I have to make sure I have a good reason to say no.
And I'm not even saying that you can't, when it's friends, like if you asked me, hey, let's go to lunch, I'll be like, oh, I can't because da 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 da. And like earlier today, you were going to run out. And I'm like, oh, I wanted to go out and run out too, but I'm like, I've got to finish up these things.
Yeah.
And so if it's a person that you're in relationship with and you can have a dialogue, then that's one thing. Like I'm giving context. I'm not explaining. I'm giving context so that she knows, dang it, I'd really love to go with you, but I got to be responsible over here. Yeah. But at the same time, sometimes there's just people that want you to explain so that they have more information to talk you out of it. To kind of come at you.
Yep.
Miss Lynch, can you bake cupcakes for the bake sale? No, I cannot. No, I cannot. Can I contribute in a different way?
There you go. I like that.
And, so, but people, if you watch, people don't like it when you don't explain. They don't.
Oh, no.
If they want to talk you out of it, because if they can get you talking, if they can get you explaining, even with salespeople, I'll say, a salesperson wants to know why you don't want this purchase or why not now, because if you give them the why, if you give them more information, then they can have their comebacks.
Yes.
So even just like I say, if you muster up the strength to say no, it's not always wise to explain. And usually you're explaining out of your own insecurities.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's keep an eye.
I have to give them reasons. I have to have a good reason. I think
it
people
is.
think they have to have a good reason to say no.
Well, because they need to, it can't just be
it's
no. Like we were talking about, no is a complete sentence.
Yeah.
It can't just be no. But for some people, that's all they need.
Yeah.
It's not all they want, but that's all you need to furnish for them, because they're not trying to hear you. They're not trying to have a dialogue with you. They're trying to get more information so that they can produce a better argument for why you need to do the exact opposite.
Yeah.
So some of the things, this is going to be a good series. I think the power of no. So let me go over a few things, the lies we tell ourselves. And again, after this, we're going to go to Zoom and we're going to kind of continue this discussion. The lies that we tell ourselves, because it's important for you to begin to recognize if you say any of these things, you are lying to yourself. You are making an excuse so that you don't have to own that I don't want to do that. Like, it's simple if it's something that is in your mind okay to say no about, but what if you had to go to a funeral but you didn't want to go?
Yeah. Ooh.
It's easy to say, oh my gosh, I have to work, oh my gosh, this, and
right.
But sometimes, I don't want to go.
Yeah.
I don't want to go. And I say funeral because that's a lot of times a very triggering event, and I've definitely gone to funerals that I didn't particularly want to go to, but you go to, I chose willingly to go to support, people. But at the same time, there's sometimes when you're just like, no, I don't want to go. And if I go, I'm going to be bitter. Then don't go.
Oof,
don't go
so
and don't do it, because if you can't own your yes, then don't have a yes.
I used to not want to. I'm from a small town, and I would get asked to babysit at times, and most of the time I was totally happy to do it, and I was home anyway and stuff like that. But there were times where I wouldn't want to go babysit because I worked at a daycare at the time and things like that.
Oof.
I don't want to go.
And there's probably like families. You were like, ooh, I don't want to. I don't want that to babysit for that family.
Too. But if I didn't have anything to do that I could say, no, I can't. Like if I was just going to be home, I couldn't say no. I couldn't just say, no, I'm sorry, I'm not available, because I'm from a small town. They're going to see my car or pass me somewhere,
And that's that trap of
Yeah.
thinking you have to explain yourself.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
You know, she didn't. And
I couldn't just be home and
yeah,
have nothing to do.
because there will be people that'll throw shade at you.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I drove by her house and she was at home.
Yeah.
What was she doing? She didn't have any. There was she
Right.
with her car was the only car there.
Right. And I would feel bad because in my
Mm-hmm.
mind, if I said no, then that means they couldn't go do the thing they wanted to go do or needed to go do.
Mm-hmm.
And
I bet they lived.
yeah,
They
you
were
know
just
why?
fine.
Because I said yes. I was a weenie. Still am. Still learning how to say no.
And it is like, but when you think of saying no, you're just taking a little bit of your power back. You're
Mhm.
being honest to yourself and you're advocating for yourself. Like I said, a no to somebody else is a yes to yourself.
Yeah.
And you have to begin to think of it that way. The lies we tell ourselves about no, I just want to go through a couple of them. I don't want to hurt so and so. And I touched on this a little bit earlier. No, like you are lying to yourself. It's not, two things can be true. Of course, we don't want to hurt people's feelings,
Yeah.
but that's not
The
real reason. The real reason is you're conflict avoidant and you don't want them to be mad at you. You don't want them to be upset with you. Like, fill in the blank. So if you see yourself saying, I don't want to hurt, and we'll call people out all the time around here on if you say, I can't say no because I don't want to hurt their feelings. No. That is false. We need to get our little buzzers up here so that we have some buzzers. We need to get our buzzers up here.
Next week.
That's right. I just can't be mean. No. Immediately, just no.
Yeah.
Saying no isn't being mean.
Right.
Well, if you feel mean, that is a you problem, and you need to learn to deal with thinking that's mean. Just like with conflict, I'll say that's another thing is people are like, well, I don't want to be mad. Like, nobody said anything about being mad. Nobody said anything about yelling. Like, people will look at conflict and I don't want to cause a fight. Like, how is saying no going to cause a fight? How is saying no going to, if you say no and somebody responds very negatively to it, there's some issues there, right? Like, and I'll be honest, let's be honest. Nobody likes to hear no if it's something they really want to hear a yes on.
Right.
But how are we going to react? And it's not to say, especially in like ongoing relationships, there's a give and take. And if somebody says no, you can still discuss about it. I'm not saying try to change somebody's mind, but you can come back and say, hey, I know that you said no, but I just wanted to say that this is really important to me. And there's ways to do it that are non-manipulative, because you can have an ongoing conversation about something. But if you constantly are trying to change somebody's mind, you're constantly trying to sell somebody on something, that doesn't feel good. No. So I just can't be mean. People will be mad at me.
Well, we talked about that a little bit.
You can say whatever you need to say, but other people have a right to respond how they're going to respond. Like, if you're going to tell somebody no, that's your right to tell somebody no, but you also can't control what the answer or how they're going to feel or what's going to come back. Like, that's on them, and you shouldn't try to control it. We talked a little bit about like filtering information, and we literally have heard people say, well, I'm only going to tell them this part of this, because if I tell them this, like, no, like, don't control people's information flow.
Right.
No, just don't do it.
Yeah.
Right. So people will be mad at me. Sometimes people will be mad at you, and you're going to have to man or woman up and just get the skill set to be able to say, it's okay if somebody's mad. It's okay if somebody doesn't agree with what I said.
Right.
And if you're in these relationships that are toxic and everybody is mad and trying to control, and then you're going to have to learn how to develop other relationships in your life that are giving.
I saw this great little video the other day and it wasn't even about saying no, but how we were talking about you can't worry about how the other person's going to respond. They get to respond how they want to. And this girl said, well, there's something I really thought about telling you today. And she's like, but I don't really want to tell you. And she's like, but I've been really thinking about it. And he's like, well, he said, this is a safe space. It's safe here. You're safe. You're safe. You can be safe here. And she said, so you promise you won't get mad? And he said, I can't make that promise. He said, this is a safe space and I get to respond however I feel authentically. Right. He said, but I'll stay in it with you and
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. And I was like, yes, that was a great response.
I know, it is a great response.
So what you're talking about, my answer is no, however they respond, you
don't get to control how they feel about you saying no.
Exactly.
And that's important in a relationship that's ongoing.
You want them to accept your no and you want to accept however they respond to it.
A lot of times, and we see this a lot of times with breakups, right? I want to break up with this person, but I don't want them to be mad at me. Like that is literally not going to happen.
Does not equal C.
But we see that a lot.
Yeah.
I want to break up with them, or I want to do X, Y, Z, and I don't want them to be upset. I want to still be friends. I want to, they have this laundry list of what needs to occur, and no, people get choices.
Yeah.
We don't, and that's why a lot of times we withhold our no and give a yes because we want a certain outcome. And withholding your no when it's if saying yes and withholding your no really is a form of manipulation.
Yeah.
And as we talk about the power of no, we will come to understand that more and more. And we have my last false belief that I want to talk about is not saying no protects me in some way. No, it doesn't. You are literally introducing deception into a relationship. Can you just like the other day we were talking about something and I said, well, I knew you wanted to do that, so it made me want to do that. Do you remember? And your response was, because especially with givers, if it does, I want to make sure it works for you, you want to make sure it works for me. Right? But
I think I said, I don't want you to do that. I was like, I don't want you to do
that.
If
but I'm like, but I want to do it for you.
Yeah.
And so when you're in a give-give relationship, it's it's okay to do things that may be, I think what we were doing, it just would have been better at a different time.
Okay.
Timing was off, I think, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember.
But I wanted to do it.
Right.
And so we have things like that. But then we also have things like, I have to do this. I would never feel like I have to do this so that you'll be happy with me.
Right.
I have to do this so you'll like me. I have to do this because of X, Y, Z. And if you're saying yes to things where you think that it's about a survival thing, then it really is very controlling and manipulative. And you really have to take a look because it's deceptive. And my whole point was about that. I would never want you to say yes to something that didn't work for you.
That I really wanted to say no to?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And vice versa.
Yeah. But I will say, because of our relationship,
absolutely,
there are things I would say yes to,
yes.
And it wouldn't be I don't want it. It might be I don't really want to do that, but I don't mind, and I'll go, and I'll have fun, and I'll have a good attitude, and I'm
that's
on board.
The difference when we're talking about that. If you can own your yes, absolutely say yes, because in relationships they're give and take. Yeah. But if you can't own your yes, you have to say no. Yeah. Or because it would be wrong to say yes to something and then just be right?
Or compromise. Make a compromise.
Yeah. And so we're going to talk more about the power of no, because I think it's huge. Yeah. Because remember, it's about boundaries, but it's even just more so than that, because can I say no to say yes to me? And we feel, just as a society, we tend to go down two paths. We feel guilty for saying no, or we get indignant and think I have a right, an entitlement mindset. Yeah. I have a right to do this.
Oh boy, you'll talk yourself into a whole story just because you can't say no, because you'll find a way.
Mhm.
You'll talk yourself into a whole story, and then you'll be mad. It's like,
Yeah.
but the more you can learn to say no and to step up, the more
Mhm.
authentic relationships you can have.
Yeah. And honestly, the more that you take care of yourself,
Mhm.
you'll find that you have a lot less no's
Yeah.
in your life. You
100%.
really do, because if you're filled, then you can overflow.
Mhm.
If you're not filled, then you can't. And as part of, like this weekend, I'm like, okay, we got to do something.
Yeah.
And we talked about it. I'm like, plan something and we can
Yes.
do something.
And we did.
We did.
Mhm.
And so I want you to think about the power of no. We're going to start a series on this. I'm not sure how many Wednesday lives it's going to be, but come on over to Zoom because we're going to talk about that right now. Let's pray us out. Dear Lord, I just thank you. Lord, I'd ask that you bless this series. Lord, that you would show us just how biblical saying no is. The Lord, that there are many people that you that you had people say no. And that's okay. That saying no is not a bad thing. That saying no can be a very positive thing in our lives. Lord, we ask you for the courage. We ask you for the strength. We ask you for the discernment to be able to let our no's be no's. In Jesus' name, amen.